when you have to serve. I need the world to stop for the next 30 minutes or so for my daughter. I don't want to hear any notifications. Turn them off, please.
Good afternoon. Kathy and Tony, Jonathan, John and Kathy, Carson, to Grandma Tina, to loving aunts and uncles, cousins, relatives, and dear friends. And to those who are watching with us today to remember Carly virtually. While Carly's family is overwhelmed by grief, they are also overwhelmed by all the love and the caring that you have shown them in these past weeks and these past days since Carly's passing. Our tradition teaches us that the soul, the neshama, of our loved ones continues to elevate closer and closer to God when we recall our loved ones, when we speak of them, and when we share our memories of them with family. I know that this family appreciates your calls and your messages and will continue to be comforted by your words and your thoughts of their dear Carly. So we begin to look for healing and consolation with words from our tradition and the Psalms. I lift my voice when all is dark. Into God's hands I place my heart. Biado of kiruchi, I'm not afraid, Adonai li. I lift my eyes when all is night. When I need help, I seek God's light. Lo echsar Adonai roi, I'm not afraid, Adonai li. Biado of kiruchi, I shall not want, Adonai li. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding. From fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death is a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Death has taken your beloved one, your beloved Carly. Our friends grieve in their darkened world, and in their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of all their loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Carly's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and her mind that brought us joy and brought us happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. Adonai roi lo echsar, בנודה שירביצני, המי מנוחות ינהלני, נפשי ישובב ינחני, ומגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגץ על מוות, לא ירא רע כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, תשענת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסר ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. The words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We read from Ecclesiastes, Lakol zman ve'ed lachol chefetz tachat hashamayim. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. This is one of those times that both are appropriate. I'm sure this family feels at times that sitting in silence is all they can handle for that moment. But at other times, sharing their memories and their thoughts, their hopes and their fears brings them comfort. So I'd like to ask Kathy to come up and share some words with all of us.
Carly was an interesting person, and I mean that only in a positive way. She was not boring. She didn't always fit in, and she didn't always want to fit in. She was unapologetically herself. Carly left home at the age of 18 with blonde hair and came home with black hair or pink hair or whatever color of the rainbow she felt like wearing that week, plus the host of tattoos and piercings that I tried really hard to ignore. But I used to joke with her that no matter what color her hair was that week, she was still a blonde. She didn't understand daylight savings time, no matter how many times I tried to explain it to her. And she could never learn how to ride a bike, no matter how many times we tried to teach her. She had bizarre phobias. She was terrified of giraffes and ostriches, and she used to say she was afraid of raw cheese or raw bread, which basically means cheese that's not melted or bread that's not toasted, and yet one of her favorite foods was grilled cheese. We had a bunch of inside jokes and the same weird sense of humor. There were many times when we texted each other the exact same thing at the exact same time. We used to love to binge watch episodes of certain shows: Law & Order SVU, Smothered, Good Girls, and What Would You Do? In 2013, we went to a book signing for John Quinones, the host of What Would You Do? And I could tell he was blown away by this 12-year-old girl sitting in the front row grilling him about his show when he was done speaking. While she was intimidated by her peers when she was younger, As she got older, she learned to not care, and she was certainly not intimidated by the world. In fact, she wanted to see it. She flew to Germany by herself when she was 17 and spent the summer living with a family and taking care of their children, and she also saw Switzerland and Denmark that year. She wanted to live in Europe when she got older, but first she had her sights set on Florida. Carly was fascinated with Florida and with the Florida-ness of Florida. We would crack up laughing over the Florida man and Florida woman stories we saw online, and she would sometimes send me pictures of the things she saw that were unique to Florida culture. She loved people watching at the Florida State Fair, and she texted me from the North Florida Gun and Exotic Bird Show a few months ago to tell me, there are so many interesting people here. Carly loved kids, loved babysitting and playing with little ones, but despite this, she wasn't very nice to Carson when they were younger, unless other kids were being mean to him, and then she would be the first one to get in their face and tell them to leave her brother alone. After she moved away, they grew a lot closer. And I can't even put into words how devastated I am for you, Carson, that you no longer have her in your life. It's a horrible loss for so many people, not just for me and Carson and John, but a loss for everyone in this room and everyone watching from home and everyone who knew her and loved her, both friends and family. Since she passed, I have heard from countless people who relayed their own stories and memories of Carly, despite some of them not having seen her for many, many years. Carly was an interesting person. She's not someone you'll easily forget, and we are all immensely better for having known her. Earlier this week, we decided to have this service, and when I looked at the calendar, I realized it was exactly 10 years ago today that we had to put our dog Bugsy to sleep. I know Carly's looking down on me right now saying, really, Mom, you're going to bring the dog into this? And yes, I am, because it struck me that there is a very interesting parallel here. After we lost Bugsy, Carly was inconsolable. I remember her telling me that it hurt so bad, she wished we never had a dog so she wouldn't have to experience this kind of pain. And I explained to her 10 years ago today that it is part of the beauty and fragility of life that we love others so much that when we lose them, the pain is immense, but we are richer for having loved them. I feel that way about you, Carly. Of course, it goes against the natural order of things that your time came before mine, and for that, there will always be a part of me that is broken. But still, as painful as this loss is, I am eternally grateful that I was blessed with 2 decades of your love, your silliness, your wicked sense of humor, your concern for others, and everything about you that made you you. I will always love you, and I will miss you for the rest of my life. But I thank God that you were a part of it.
Thank you, Kathy. And John, if you'll come up now and share your words.
I'm going to do my very best to try to get through this, and therefore I'm probably not going to look up too much to look at all of you, so forgive me for not making eye contact. But I'd like to begin by saying to thank everyone for coming out today, here in person, and those that are actually watching the live stream. I'm going to try to focus on the positives today after acknowledging the hard reality of this tragedy. I've been putting off writing her eulogy for the last month in hopes that a little time would bring some perspective. But unfortunately, that is not the case at this time, and there are no words to describe the sadness, heartbreak, and tragedy that Carly's unexpected passing has caused. Even a month out, I've been unable to think about the cost of her lost future because the vastness of this loss is immeasurable. As I look back on Carly's life, there are so many things that made her so special and unique. She was full of contradictions. She could be absolutely fearless about taking action on major things, but scared to death to learn how to ride a bike. Another example is that she owned a python snake named Dorothy that she had to feed mice to, but was scared of spiders and small bugs. She was incredibly funny and witty at times and could be equally prickly. Other examples you've already heard, like her issues with bread and cheese, but love grilled cheese sandwiches, and the list goes on and on. Carly did not hesitate to share her viewpoints, both good and bad. And one of my favorite stories is when she was working at M Italian out in Chagrin Falls as a hostess, and there was a customer who was being very particular about the table she wanted to sit at and asked to change tables 3 or 4 times. Carly was annoyed, but kindly accommodated her, all the while thinking to herself how difficult this woman was. When she finally settled on her spot, Carly dropped off the menus and accidentally said, "Enjoy your meal, bitch." Unfortunately, the customer heard the comment and spoke with the manager immediately. Needless to say, in the hospitality industry, you would expect to be fired on the spot, but Carly somehow managed to save her job. A lesson learned. As I look at Zach Brule, my dear friend, we've had a few interesting things happen along the years. Carly was a truly beautiful person inside and out. She was as kind, caring, and empathetic as any parent could ask for. I think to some degree that she loved more deeply, but conversely felt the pain of loss more acutely. She packed a lot into 20 years and experienced great successes and also tremendous losses, but she was a fighter and continued to get up after falling. Carly's passing is a loss for our family, for both her friends and ours, but no more so than for her mother and her brother Carson. I am so incredibly sad that Carson has lost his big sister and will have to bear this loss. Their age difference was just beginning to shrink, and they were spending more time with each other and enjoying each other's company. I always told them that boyfriends and girlfriends, husbands and wives may come and go, but you will have each other for life. I could not have been more proud to have called Carly my daughter and be her dad. Please don't ever hesitate to bring her up or speak her name. I will always be more than happy to talk about my beautiful, bright, kind, amazing Carly. I believe that there is a very thin veil between life and death, and I'm sure that I will see Carly on the other side when my time comes. For now, my only hope is that she was welcomed and is wrapped in the love of her grandparents, Gloria Sharp and Rachel Siegel, and the rest of our family who preceded her. I don't want to single out people by name since all of you, literally all of you here and who are watching the live stream, have gone above and beyond in showering us with love and support. But I do have to single out a couple of very special people whom Carly loved and who made the trip from Tampa to pay their respect. Carly's best friend, and whom she called her soul sister from college, Miss Purvi Talan, and her amazing and dear friend, Tyler Delaney. Please know that she loved you both more than you'll ever know, and we cannot thank you enough for being such great friends to our beautiful girl and for your love and support. To Stuart Berkowitz, if you're here, Stuart, you are an incredible friend. Thank you for taking such great care of Carly and our family during our time of need. You are a true gentleman and a mensch. I'm going to wrap up by addressing my daughter directly. And I'm going to tell her, Carly, I will love and cherish you for the rest of my life. It will never be the same without you. But we will pick up the pieces and march forward in your honor. Rest easy, baby girl. We will love you forever.
Thank you for sharing your stories, your personal pain with all of us. I had asked if I could sing today, and I realized that I cannot, because I don't think I could do it. So I'd like to, it's a difficult day for even those of us who are on the periphery of Carly's life. But I would like to say a few words as well. There really are no adequate words with which to try to mitigate the pain or to console the inconsolable. This is why you have chosen to come together in deepest despair, and you acknowledge that words are often of little help. But perhaps just being here together expresses a sentiment which goes beyond words. It is hard for us all to believe that Carly's life has ended so suddenly and so tragically. Her death leaves us sad at the thought of the unfinished years, the years filled with possibility, with hopes and dreams. For a dreamer Carly was, her life's path yet undecided, but based on a foundation of non-judgmental love and caring for others, of compassion for those less fortunate, those in society who suffer due to discrimination and malice towards them. Within the Torah, there are many descriptions of the type of person upon whom our tradition places a high value. One of the most striking is given to us by the psalmist in the 15th Psalm. It says, "He who walks uprightly and practices justice, who speaks truth from his heart, on whose tongue there is no deceit, who does no evil to his fellow man." These qualities were characterized in Carly's life. She was honest and upright. She was dedicated to the triumph of justice in our society. She marched for justice at the Women's March in 2017. Carly was strengthened by her principles, and she stood up for her convictions and to the causes in which she believed. There was no camouflage or fakeness in her character, which I now really understand as a maitre d'. There was no facade behind which she hid. Carly was the same without and within. She hung pictures of her heroes on her bedroom wall: Barack Obama, Martin Luther King, and Gandhi, certainly the kind of people she chose to emulate. For whatever Carly did in life, she was all in. She was creative, and she used her talents in writing, directing, and even acting in her own Thanksgiving plays that she performed with her cousins. She also wrote Purim spiels that were performed at Suburban Temple when she was just a teenager. A most memorable one was based on the Jerry Springer Show, entitled The Barry Springer Show. Carly's Purim Passion at Temple did not go unnoticed, as the rabbi and staff put her skills to good use, having her organize and set up the Purim Carnival each year. She was given a budget to order the prizes, including the dreaded goldfish, which every parent prayed their child would not win. And she set up and took charge of the prize room. She filled an important role for the synagogue, doing the hard work, giving 100% of herself to make it perfect. Her aunts Wendy and Patricia remember her smile and the sparkle in her eyes, and remarked how no matter what she was doing, Carly made it interesting and memorable. Today, and always, as we will think of Carly, let's remember her as a smiling, loving daughter, a wonderful sister and a granddaughter, a niece, a cousin, a relative, and the great friend that she was. Let us never remember and never say that the tragedy of the substance abuse which is rampant in our society, which took her life, will never let it define her life. She was so much more than that. She taught us to live and to love with all our might, with all our hearts, to stand strong against injustice and speak out loudly with conviction and faith. I pray that she is now at rest. No more pain, no more suffering. Perhaps these final poetic words of Warren Hansen can speak for Carly today. The next place that I go will be as peaceful and familiar as a sleepy summer Sunday and a sweet, untroubled mind. And yet it won't be anything like any place I've ever been or seen or even dreamed of in the place I leave behind. I won't know where I'm going, and I won't know where I've been as I tumble through the always and look back towards the when. I'll glide beyond the rainbows. I'll drift above the sky. I'll fly into the wonder without ever wondering why. I won't remember getting there. Somehow, I'll just arrive. But I'll know that I belong there, and I will feel much more alive. I will absolutely be free of the things that I held on to and that were holding on to me. There will be no more room for darkness in that place of living light, where an ever-dawning morning pushes back the dying night. The very air will fill with brilliance as the brightly shining sun, and the moon and 500,000 stars are married into one. The next place that I go won't really be a place at all. There won't be any seasons, summer, winter, spring, or fall. I will not be a boy or a girl, a woman or a man. I'll simply be, just simply me, nor worse or better than. My skin will not be dark or light. I won't be fat or tall. The body I once lived in won't be a part of me at all. I will finally be perfect. I will be without a flaw. I will never make one more mistake or break a smallest law. And the me that was impatient or was angry or unkind will simply be a memory, the me I left behind. I will travel empty-handed. There is not a single thing I have collected in my life that I would ever want to bring, except the love of those who loved me and the warmth of those who cared, the happiness and the memories and the magic that we shared. I'll be embraced by all the family and friends I've ever known, and the circle of our spirits will shine brighter than the sun. I will cherish all the friendship I was fortunate to find, all the love and all the laughter in the place I leave behind. All these good things will go with me. They will make my spirit glow, and that light will shine forever in the next place that I go. Adonai Natan, v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. God has given. God gave us all Carly, and now God has taken her away. Blessed be the name of God. We ask all who are able now to please rise for the words of El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen B'Amromim, Hametzeh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Shechina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Maya Bat Chaya V'Yonatan Shalcha Le'olama, Bal HaRachamim Yasireha B'Seter Kenafav Le'olamim, V'Yitzror B'Yitzror Chaim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata, V'Tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava V'Nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Carly Siegel, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. We say finally to you, Carly, go your way, for God has called you. Lech ki shilachecha Adonai. Go your way, and may God be with you. Lech ve'Adonai yeh imach. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. V'halach lefanecha tzidkecha kavod Adonai yasvecha. Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch shar avei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. We ask that these mourners be comforted with peace and love and compassion, just as Carly did each day of her life. We join now together with the words of Kaddish, Yit Gadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, Ve'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, V'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala u'v'izmin kari v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach la'olam u'almei almaya, Yit barach v'yish tabach, v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh, v'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shemed kudusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom biromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru imaru amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn, and comfort to all the bereaved among us. Amen ve'amen. That concludes the service here today. May you continue to find comfort amongst each other. Please share your stories, share your love, and we will always remember her, Carly. Amen. You may be seated.